Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. New York City, a melting pot of cultures and religions, has a rich and complex relationship with Islam that spans centuries. This exploration delves into the multifaceted story of Muslims in the Big Apple, from their historical roots to their present-day experiences. We'll journey through the arrival and growth of Islam in New York, examine the current demographics of the Muslim population, peek into their daily lives and communities, address the challenges they face, and confront the issue of Islamophobia in the city. This comprehensive look at Islam in New York is divided into 5 key sections. 1. The historical spread of Islam in New York. 2. Muslim demographics, numbers, and diversity. 3. Daily life and communities of Muslims in New York. 4. Challenges faced by the Muslim population. 5. Islamophobia and the struggle against discrimination. Through these sections, we aim to provide a nuanced understanding of the Muslim experience in one of the world's most diverse cities. From the early days of Muslim slaves in colonial times to the vibrant communities of today, this is a story of resilience, integration, and the ongoing pursuit of religious freedom and social acceptance in the heart of America's largest metropolis. Let's dive deeper into the fascinating history of Islam in New York City. It's a story that spans centuries and reflects the broader narrative of immigration and cultural diversity that has shaped this incredible metropolis. The roots of Islam in New York actually stretch back to the colonial era, long before the city became the bustling metropolis we know today. In the 1600s, the first Muslims to set foot in what would become New York were likely African slaves, forcibly brought to the New World. Many of these individuals came from West African regions where Islam was prevalent. Though their religious practices were often suppressed, some managed to maintain their faith in secret. Fast forward to the late 19th century, and we see the beginnings of voluntary Muslim immigration to New York. This wave primarily consisted of people from the Ottoman Empire, particularly from regions that are now Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan. Many were seeking economic opportunities and fleeing political instability in their homelands. These early immigrants settled in Lower Manhattan, establishing a neighborhood known as Little Syria around Washington Street. This area became a vibrant hub of Arab American life, including a small but growing Muslim community. The early 20th century saw the construction of some of the first purpose-built mosques in the city. One of the most notable was the Muslim Mosque, built in 1931 in Brooklyn. This period also saw the rise of African American Islamic movements, particularly in Harlem. The Moorish Science Temple, founded by Noble Drew Ali, gained a following in the 1920s, blending Islamic principles with black nationalism. The post-World War II era marked a significant turning point. The Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 opened America's doors to immigrants from across the globe, leading to a substantial increase in the Muslim population of New York. This new wave included people from a wide range of countries: South Asians from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, Arabs from Egypt, Palestine, and Iraq, and Muslims from African nations like Somalia and Nigeria. During this time, we also saw the rise of the Nation of Islam, which gained a strong following among African Americans in New York during the Civil Rights era. Figures like Malcolm X, who was based in Harlem for much of his career, played a crucial role in spreading the message of Islam among black New Yorkers. The 1970s and 80s saw the establishment of more Muslim institutions across the city. Islamic centers and mosques began popping up in various neighborhoods, serving the growing and increasingly diverse Muslim community. The Islamic Cultural Center of New York, one of the city's largest mosques, was built in 1991 on the Upper East Side, symbolizing the increasing visibility and acceptance of Islam in the city. In recent decades, New York's Muslim community has continued to grow and diversify. We've seen influxes of Muslims from regions experiencing conflict or economic hardship: Bosnians in the 1990s, Afghans and Iraqis in the 2000s, and more recently, Syrian refugees. Today, New York's Muslim community is one of the most diverse in the world, reflecting the global nature of Islam. You'll find Muslims from virtually every country where Islam is practiced, all bringing their unique cultural traditions and interpretations of the faith to the melting pot of New York City. This rich history has left an indelible mark on New York's cultural landscape. From the halal food carts that have become a staple of city street life to the beautiful mosques that dot the skyline, Islam has become an integral part of New York's identity. The story of Islam in New York is, in many ways, the story of New York itself, a tale of immigration, cultural exchange, challenges, and ultimately, the forging of a unique and vibrant community. When it comes to pinning down exact numbers for the Muslim population in New York, we're dealing with a bit of a moving target. Unlike some other religious groups, Muslims aren't always easy to count precisely. This is partly because the U.S. Census doesn't ask about religious affiliation, and partly because of the diverse and sometimes fluid nature of religious identity. That said, we do have some solid estimates to work with. According to recent surveys and studies, particularly those conducted by the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding and the Pew Research Center, there are approximately 769,000 Muslims living in New York City. To put that in perspective, that's about 9% of the city's total population. This makes Muslims one of the largest religious minority groups in the city, alongside Jews. Now let's break this down a bit further. In terms of ethnic background, New York's Muslim population is incredibly diverse. The largest groups are of South Asian descent, primarily from countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India. They make up about 35% of the Muslim population in the city. The next largest group is of Arab descent, accounting for roughly 25% of Muslims in New York. This includes people with roots in countries like Egypt, Syria, Palestine, and Morocco. African American Muslims, including both those who are descendants of slaves and more recent African immigrants, make up about 20% of the city's Muslim population. The remaining 20% is a mix of various ethnicities, including Muslims from Southeast Asia, Turkey, Iran, and converts from various backgrounds. When it comes to the split between Sunni and Shia Muslims, it's important to note that precise data is harder to come by. However, based on global trends and local community estimates, it's generally accepted that Sunni Muslims make up the majority in New York, as they do worldwide. Approximately 75 to 80% of Muslims in New York City are thought to be Sunni. Shia Muslims, the second largest denomination of Islam globally, make up most of the remaining 20 to 25%. This includes various Shia groups such as Twelver Shias, the largest group, Ismailis, and Zaydis. It's worth noting that New York has some significant Shia communities, particularly among immigrants from Iran, Iraq, and Lebanon. There's also a small but notable presence of other Muslim groups in New York. This includes Ahmadiyya Muslims, Sufis of various orders, and some smaller sects. While these groups make up a small percentage of the overall Muslim population, they contribute to the rich tapestry of Islamic practice in the city. It's also important to mention that these numbers are constantly evolving. New York continues to be a major destination for immigrants from Muslim-majority countries, and the Muslim population is growing faster than the city's overall population. This growth is due to both immigration and higher birth rates among Muslim families. Another interesting demographic trend is the age distribution of Muslims in New York. On average, the Muslim population tends to be younger than the general population. A significant portion of Muslims in the city are under 30, which suggests that Islam will continue to play an important role in New York's future. In terms of geographic distribution within the city, Muslims can be found in all 5 boroughs, but there are some areas with particularly high concentrations. Queens, especially neighborhoods like Jackson Heights and Astoria, has a large and diverse Muslim population. Brooklyn, particularly in areas like Bay Ridge and Coney Island, also has significant Muslim communities. The Bronx has seen growing Muslim populations in recent years as well. These demographic trends have significant implications for the city's social, cultural, and political landscape. As the Muslim population grows and becomes more established, we're seeing increased representation in various sectors, from business and education to politics and the arts. This diversity and growth are part of what makes New York such a unique and vibrant city, truly living up to its reputation as a global melting pot. The daily life of Muslims in New York is as diverse and vibrant as the city itself. From dawn to dusk across all 5 boroughs, Muslim New Yorkers are integral to the city's rhythm, contributing to its economy, culture, and community in countless ways. Let's start with the spiritual aspect. For many observant Muslims, the day begins before sunrise with Fajr, the first of 5 daily prayers. In neighborhoods with significant Muslim populations, you might hear the soft call to prayer from local mosques. However, given New York's fast-paced lifestyle, many Muslims find creative ways to fulfill their religious obligations. You'll see people praying in quiet corners of offices, in dedicated prayer rooms in universities, or even in parks during lunch breaks. Mosques serve as more than just places of worship. They're community hubs. New York boasts over 275 mosques, ranging from small prayer rooms to large Islamic centers. These spaces host a variety of activities beyond daily prayers. You'll find Quran study circles, Arabic language classes, youth groups, and community outreach programs. During Ramadan, mosques become particularly lively, with communal iftar dinners bringing people together to break their fasts. Muslim-owned businesses extend beyond food. There are Islamic bookstores, clothing shops specializing in modest fashion, and even Muslim-focused tech startups. Many of these businesses cluster in areas with high Muslim populations, creating vibrant commercial districts. Education is highly valued in Muslim communities. Many Muslim parents send their children to New York's public schools, while others opt for Islamic schools that combine religious education with the standard curriculum. There are several well-established Islamic schools across the city, particularly in Brooklyn and Queens. For higher education, institutions like the City University of New York, CUNY, have significant Muslim student populations. Muslim student associations are active on many campuses, organizing events and providing support to Muslim students. In terms of recreation and social life, Muslim New Yorkers participate in a wide range of activities. You'll see Muslims in the city's parks, at cultural events, and enjoying New York's many attractions. However, there are also events and spaces catering specifically to Muslim interests. These might include halal restaurant weeks, Muslim comedy nights, or social mixers for young professionals. Sports are popular, with many mosques organizing basketball or soccer leagues. During Ramadan, it's common to see late-night soccer matches in parks after the Taraweeh prayers. Muslim New Yorkers are also increasingly engaged in civic and political life. There are Muslim city council members, state legislators, and community board representatives. Organizations like the Muslim Democratic Club of New York encourage political participation. In terms of where Muslims live, while they can be found throughout the city, certain neighborhoods have particularly high concentrations. 1. In Queens, Jackson Heights, Astoria, and Jamaica have large and diverse Muslim communities. 2. In Brooklyn, Bay Ridge, Coney Island, and Midwood are known for their Muslim populations, particularly from Arab countries. 3. In the Bronx, areas like Parkchester and Morris Park have growing Muslim communities, many from West Africa. 4. In Manhattan, while less concentrated, there are Muslim communities in areas like Harlem and the East Village. 5. In Staten Island, the North Shore area has a small but growing Muslim population. These neighborhoods often reflect the diversity within Islam itself. For instance, Astoria has a large Egyptian community, while Jackson Heights is known for its South Asian Muslims. Despite the challenges they face, which we'll discuss in the next section, Muslim New Yorkers continue to weave themselves into the fabric of the city. Their daily lives reflect a balancing act between maintaining religious and cultural traditions and embracing the unique opportunities and challenges of life in one of the world's most diverse and dynamic cities. Despite being an integral part of New York's diverse tapestry, Muslim New Yorkers face a number of unique challenges. These issues range from discrimination and stereotyping to more systemic problems affecting their daily lives and long-term prospects. One of the most pressing issues is discrimination, which manifests in various forms. In the workplace, many Muslims report facing bias in hiring, promotion, and daily interactions. This can range from subtle microaggressions to outright hostility. For instance, some Muslims have reported being passed over for customer-facing roles due to their appearance or religious attire, particularly women wearing hijabs. Housing discrimination is another significant problem. Some Muslim New Yorkers have faced difficulties renting apartments or buying homes in certain neighborhoods. This can be due to explicit bias from landlords or more subtle forms of steering by real estate agents. The issue of surveillance and profiling by law enforcement has been particularly contentious. The NYPD's controversial surveillance program of Muslim communities, which ran from 2002 to 2014, left deep scars. While officially disbanded, its legacy continues to affect trust between Muslim communities and law enforcement. Many Muslims report feeling unfairly targeted or viewed with suspicion, particularly in airports or other security settings. Educational challenges are also prevalent. Muslim students sometimes face bullying or harassment in schools, often stemming from stereotypes or misinformation about Islam. There have been reports of Muslim students being called terrorists or facing pressure to prove their Americanness. Additionally, some Muslim families struggle with the lack of halal food options in school cafeterias or accommodations for religious observances like Ramadan. In terms of religious practice, while New York is generally accommodating, Muslims still face some obstacles. Zoning issues have sometimes made it difficult to establish new mosques or Islamic centers, particularly in areas with less diverse populations. During Ramadan, some Muslims report difficulties in getting time off work for prayers or in finding suitable places to break their fast. Economic challenges are another concern. While the Muslim community in New York is diverse in terms of socioeconomic status, certain segments face higher rates of poverty and unemployment. This is particularly true for recent immigrants who may struggle with language barriers or lack of recognition for foreign credentials. Healthcare is another area where Muslims sometimes face unique challenges. Some Muslim patients report difficulties in finding healthcare providers who understand their religious or cultural needs, such as preferences for same-gender providers or accommodations for fasting during Ramadan. The rise of Islamophobia, particularly in the post-9/11 era, has had a profound impact on the Muslim community in New York. Hate crimes against Muslims, or those perceived to be Muslim, have been a recurring issue. These can range from verbal harassment on the streets or public transportation to more serious incidents of vandalism or physical attacks on individuals or mosques. Media representation is another challenge. Many Muslims feel that portrayals of their faith and community in mainstream media are often negative or one-dimensional, focusing disproportionately on extremism or presenting Islam as incompatible with American values. Political rhetoric at the national level has also had local impacts. Policies like the Trump administration's Muslim ban created a climate of fear and uncertainty, even in a sanctuary city like New York. Many Muslim New Yorkers reported increased anxiety about their place in society and concerns about the safety of family members abroad. Intra-community issues also exist. The diversity within the Muslim population sometimes leads to tensions or divisions along ethnic, national, or sectarian lines. There can be disagreements over religious interpretations or cultural practices, as well as generational divides between more established community members and newer immigrants. Mental health is a growing concern, with many Muslims reporting increased stress and anxiety due to the cumulative effect of these challenges. However, stigma around mental health issues within some Muslim communities can make it difficult for individuals to seek help. Despite these challenges, it's important to note that the Muslim community in New York has shown remarkable resilience. Many organizations and individuals are actively working to address these issues, from providing legal aid and advocacy to creating mentorship programs and interfaith initiatives. The community's response to these challenges is shaping a new narrative of Muslim American identity in New York City. Despite New York's reputation for diversity and tolerance, the city has not been immune to this global phenomenon. Manifestations of Islamophobia in New York have taken various forms. At the individual level, this includes verbal harassment, discrimination in public spaces, and in some cases, physical attacks. Muslim New Yorkers have reported being called derogatory names on the street, in schools, or on public transportation. Women wearing hijabs have been particularly vulnerable to such incidents. At a more systemic level, Islamophobia has manifested in institutional practices. The NYPD's surveillance program of Muslim communities, which operated from 2002 to 2014, is a prime example. This program involved extensive monitoring of mosques, Muslim-owned businesses, and student groups, often without any evidence of wrongdoing. While the program was eventually disbanded following public outcry and legal challenges, its impact on community trust continues to be felt. Several organizations have been identified as promoting Islamophobic rhetoric in New York and beyond. The Center for Security Policy, though based in Washington, D.C., has influence in New York through its publications and media appearances. They've been criticized for promoting conspiracy theories about Muslim infiltration of American institutions. ICT for America, which has a presence in New York, has been labeled an anti-Muslim hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. They've organized protests against the building of mosques and have lobbied for policies that many view as discriminatory towards Muslims. They've sponsored controversial ad campaigns in the New York subway system featuring inflammatory messages about Islam. All right, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into the Muslim experience in New York City. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the rich history of Islam in the Big Apple to the vibrant, diverse communities thriving across the 5 boroughs. We've looked at the challenges faced by Muslim New Yorkers and the ongoing efforts to combat discrimination and build understanding. I hope this video has given you a new perspective on the integral role Muslims play in shaping New York's unique cultural landscape. Their story is really a quintessential New York story, one of resilience, adaptation, and the pursuit of the American dream in all its complexity. If you found this content interesting or enlightening, I'd love for you to be a part of our growing community here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button to stay updated on more videos exploring the diverse tapestry of cultures and communities that make our world so fascinating. And hey, I'm always eager to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below, sharing your own experiences or insights about Muslim life in New York or your own city. Let's keep this conversation going. Thanks for watching, and remember, in a city like New York, every community's story is part of the bigger picture. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.